Good week. Good week to maybe head into the things that I wanted to talk about a little bit today, which is, one of the things that I was going to say is like we're going to have a challenging these next 2, 3, 4 months can still be very challenging because it is a slower time of the year historically, the seasonality of our business. And there's a lot of people right now. The projections are that 40% of now, depending on what happens with the market, but 40% of licenses aren't going to get renewed this year, is what the projection has been, because there's some people out there that aren't doing any volume at all. And when you look at some of the stats that I look at, I'm spending a lot of time now in this new software that I'm using for identifying target recruits. The numbers are really bad at a lot of companies. We're doing pretty well. When I look across the board at how we're doing, we're not, obviously nobody's killing it right now, but I'll take our numbers over almost everybody that I've looked at. So you guys are doing really good work. But if 40%, if that's true, if 40% of them aren't going to get renewed, what this is we're entering into what I would call a season of, it's a war of attrition. So who's going to be standing? Who's still going to be here? And that can be depressing. Let's be honest. That can be depressing for real estate agents. It can be depressing for loan officers. And so my fear is that, and this is what we have to combat as a group, and that's why we have to work together to support each other, is my fear is that's going to translate into your energy on a day-to-day basis. And you cannot let that happen, because the way you show up every day matters so much. If you can get excited about the fact it's like going, hey man, 40% of the licenses aren't going to get renewed. It's a war of attrition. I'm going to win. I'm going to be standing here when this is over, and I'm going to go out right now with the highest level of energy that I possibly can. You can win a lot of business opportunities that way. If you show up like that with referral partners, when you're meeting with realtors right now, especially because they're dragging too, right? They're in the same boat that we are. And if you can show up with this massive high level of energy, when you do interact with them, they'll be like, what the hell, dude? It's like, dude, I'm excited. This is going to be the best time. Here's what we have to do. Let's stay close, right? Because the number one strategy in this kind of an environment, without fail, to me, is how close are you to the people in that database of yours? Because that's the golden, is staying close to those people and having those individual conversations. And you don't have to talk about anything business related. You have to check in with them, like, how's the house? How's it going? The people that you haven't done the people that are renters that don't have a home are the people that it's like, how's it going? I know it's like, you know what, we could be in a really good time, and explain to them why. And in this environment, especially with rates softening here, this could be, to Giuseppe's point, this could be the absolute best time. But your energy when you show up is going to be the difference maker. It's not what everybody's experiencing. I have not talked to anybody. I had breakfast a couple of weeks ago with Gavin Ekstrom, Eric Colby, and Milt Karavitas. Milt is the regional for New American Funding. It was depressing. I'm telling you, it was depressing. Of the three, Gavin was probably the most positive, but it was depressing. I was like, dude, I got to get out of here. Like, you guys are this, I got to go. Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys. This is great. We'll do this every month. And it was, if those guys at that level are showing up that way, think about how important it would be for you guys to show up at that high level of energy when you're interacting with everybody that you're talking to. Be excited about it. It's the only way that we're going to get through this, because it is going to be a war of attrition. But if you show up with that level of energy, like Ryan, what you did, that email that you sent out, if you don't mind, share that email with everybody. The email that you sent with the presence attached, with the presence, you had a link to the presence worksheet document. And get on the phone and follow up with everybody that you sent that email to, and just like, dude, this has been such a difference maker for me in my life. Tell me what's going on with you. And if you're like, yeah, I'm worried about this, like, well, let's get together and talk about it. Let's talk about what we can do, because they're looking for leadership, guys. They're looking for somebody that can give them some hope, right? And if you get into that conversation, if they're like, yeah, no, it's going to suck, like, okay, well, get away from them. Because you can't afford, in this environment, you can't afford to spend time with people that aren't going to be positive, because they'll drag you down. there's a lot of evidence to be drugged down with, right? Like I can show you the evidence. That's easy. Don't let that happen to you, right? Just show up and be the most positive, highest energy person that you can possibly be. And that'll be a difference maker, I promise. Stay in touch with those clients. Those clients, the people that are in your database are going to be the key to getting this done. So I saw this analogy, and this is great. The cost of missing the 10 best days. This is in the market. So over the last 20 years, a buy and hold investor made close to 10% in the market. Buy and hold close to 10%. That's double what the sideline investor who pulls out during the dips only to buy back later. They all saw a 5% return. The message is clear. Stay invested. That's the key to capturing long-term gains. That's the opportunity that you have, is that you double your market share by staying invested in your business. Stay consistent, stay dedicated, and be ready to seize the opportunities when the market rebounds, because the market always rebounds, and you're starting to see evidence of it right now. But if you're not going to be the high energy guy, you're going to miss that opportunity, right? So that's the thing that I'd like everybody to stay focused on, because the next 3 to 4 months are going to be the next 3 to 4 months, no matter what we do. But we can, it goes back to attitude, commitment, and effort. Life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you react to it. So that's it. Because what's not going to change, and this is the one thing I would add, is like buyers still, as far as the realtor developments is concerned, I'm kind of segueing into, so what's going to happen with this realtor thing? I don't know what's going to happen. They've already all the other lawsuits are already being filed now. That lawyer would do that. The law firm that got a hold of this is going to do the same thing. He's going to try to sue everybody that can. I don't know what's going to happen. It's far too early to know for sure what's going to happen and how this could change the business. What I do know is homeowners still need pre-approvals. Homeowners still need mortgages. And you being connected to your database, and you tell your realtors the same things. Like, guys, but the only thing we have is to stay close to our buyers and explain our value. That's all we have, because that's all this is. That's all this has ever been. And growing your database and staying close to especially if if that buyer's agent model goes away somehow. And I don't know what that could possibly look like. We could sit here and talk about all the things that could possibly happen, but people are still going to need pre-approvals, and they're going to need mortgages, and that's where you come in. So are we going to be doing more work? Possibly. I don't know. We're waiting to see how that plays out. I can see us. One of the things we talked about in Park City is will mortgage companies have paralegals on staff to help people with contracts? I don't know. It depends. There's a whole bunch of things that could happen, but at the end of the day, staying close to your database is probably the number one most impactful strategy that you can attack. So don't ignore that, and be out front with your clients right now. If they're talking about it, just say, hey, I don't know if you've heard about this, but here's what's going on. I wanted to let you know we're paying close attention to what's happening, and we're not going to make any promises about what the future is going to hold, but we're going to be here and we're going to be ready. So making sure that your clients know what's going on. That's the key, is that your database is your number one asset in this business. The same thing for the realtors. So is anybody getting any fearful responses from real estate agents on this? Like, what are you guys hearing?
I had a conversation yesterday with an agent, and he's convinced, of course, that it's going to be years down the road, but that really nothing will change other than a disclosure to your seller, like saying, hey, you can offer 0% to the buyer's agent. You're not going to get anything. And then the next side of that is, hey, if they're offering 0% on your purchase contract, you're negotiating a percentage for the buyer's agent in the contract. Yeah. So it'll just be a little bit of a different form, as his take on it. And I thought that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's kind of the general consensus that I've been getting to, Casey, is everybody's like basically saying that it's going to change a little bit, but it's not going to be as like 180 as we think it's going to be. Like the buyer's agent is just not going to go away overnight. Things might change a little bit. Like there's too much liability. There's just so much that goes into it, right? Maybe each state will be a little bit different, but yeah, I think the disclosure process might be a little bit different, but all agents agree, most agents are listing and buyer's agents. So they understand like both sides of the story. So I just don't think buyer's agency is going to just all of a sudden disappear. And like, we're going to have to be paralegals now.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple agents and they're all feeling that too, that they're like, it's gonna eventually shake out and probably nothing will change. That article that came out yesterday, that was talking about how frustrated the sellers were that they were paying 6%. Well, like in the big picture, right? If they had to pay 3% to pay their own buyer's agent, they probably never would have bought the house. So they would not even have had that equity to share. So it's still a wash. Like if you only pay 3% as a seller, like that's great, but then you have to pay 3% when you buy. And then now you don't. So I think mathematically it all is a wash. So
Yeah.
I think it'll work out.
Let's be clear. Yeah, let's be clear. Sellers wouldn't lower the price of their home to offset the 3% they supposedly wouldn't have to pay the buyer's agent. That's not going to happen, right? So this is just whenever it says like, oh, the realtors are greedy, it's like, the sellers are pretty greedy. I mean, the sellers at the end of the day are the ones that like, I want this, right? It isn't. And so and my, like, they keep saying, and I just don't know how it works because we don't loan money in Australia. They keep saying that in Australia they do this business where only one agent. And so I've tried to think through how would that work if you're the buyer and you work just with the agent. I don't know. Do you hire an attorney? You pay attorney a flat fee? So what I think is that there's going to be an evolution. If things are going to really change in America, the way that we buy and sell real estate is really going to change. It's not going to happen overnight. It's, to your guys' point, it's going to evolve over time.
I mean, I'm sure it's probably just similar to a transaction broker that is the agent on, a transaction.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're representing both sides and they're just like we see in Colorado every once in a while. Right.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Okay. The next thing I want to hit on is just office hours. And this, I've seen this more and more, and as much as, the world's evolved and we're not seeing each other as often, and there's a lot more work from home, what I want to try to do is I want to try to get as many people in the office, not every day, because I don't see us going back to an everyday in the office environment, but, having the salespeople interact individually, face to face with the operations staff is something that I know we can get a lot of benefit out of. First of all, to develop a working relationship with a human being that you meet face to face is a lot different than developing a relationship with people you interact with electronically all the time, either over the phone, voice, or email. And even Zoom is still not as good of a face-to-face experience as can. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is to get in the office at least, what did I say? Did I say once a month or once a week? Once a month. It's just once a month. So if I could just get you guys, and it's Monday or Wednesday, right? The reason Monday or Wednesday, because Monday or Wednesday is the day that is the day of the week that we get all the operations staff in the office. And so I'm not asking, I'm telling, it's going to be mandatory. You need to come in. You need to be face to face with them on a monthly basis. So we're talking 12 times a year. It isn't that big of an ask. And the amount of pickup that you're going to have by spending that time with them. And so Brian and Giuseppe, you guys are here a lot. Casey, I guess this applies to you. Jacqueline, you're here a lot. Jay, you're here a lot. Dean, you're here a lot. So Casey, this is directed directly at you. I'm just kidding. But everybody's going to have this, right? So just once a month, and it's just not that big. It's not that big of an ask. And developing a strong working relationship with the people that are here to support you. Going back to just watch that video from last week again and think about what it means when, if a processor is closing 20 loans a month, making $100,000 a year, they make literally 1/10 of what you make on a transaction, and they have 20 of them in their pipeline all the time to pull that off. So we need them. We need them in a big way. And this isn't, and developing a strong working relationship is part of having a good processor. It just is, right? So don't discount that. I want to make sure that you guys all hear that. And then this will be going out to everybody. And then, and so then the last thing is I've been covering on the Friday Focuses this idea of coming up with a really strong why behind a goal that you're going to set for yourself. Again, 2024 business planning. I'm going to start sharing some more documentation. I'm not going to do it on this call. Sharing some more documentation of work that I'm going to want you guys doing. as we prepared a business plan for 2024, and then coming up with that powerful why behind what you guys are going to commit to. Every year we set these goals, and this is how much production I'm going to do, and this is, we're going to make sure that we really go working backwards onto how many conversations a week do I got to have. We're going to go back to the work, because to me the goal isn't I'm going to do 60 loans or I'm going to do 120 loans, I'm going to do 200 loans. The goal should be I have to have this many conversations a day. This is how much prospecting activity I have to do, because without a doubt, all the business that you're going to get is predicated on how much prospecting activity. And where we get sidelined, where I get sidelined, and where every salesperson on the planet's ever gotten sidelined is they don't make prospecting mandatory above everything else before they do anything else. They fit prospecting in where they have time because they get busy with all the other work. But if you just said, no, this is what I'm going to do, and the prospecting activity has to come first, then I'll work on loans. If that's what you did, this would always, Dean and I started talking about this because I've been, right next to each other, and we talk about this stuff all the time. And for the prospecting activity that Dean needs to do, he needs to have 10. We've decided he needs to have 10 conversations every single day, 50 conversations every single week, and to come up with a prospect for him, it's going to be a carrot. It's not a stick, so it's not a penalty. It's a carrot. Like, what is it you're going to do for your family? Because we've decided his family. Because that's, I said, I go, dude, for you, it's going to be easy. It's like, what are you going to promise your children that you're not going to go back on? And so, dude, you put it out there in a big, huge way. I was like going, dude, no, that's a badass commitment that you made. So you want to share with everybody what you told your daughters you do?
I told them I'd take them to Africa next year.
Boom. I love it. So you can't let them down now. You can't let them down. You cannot let them down.
Because now they're like, they're doing safaris with their stuffed animals. They're shit. They're into
Oh
it.
man.
Like, I'm like, every day it's like, oh crap. Like, I better just start stopping by some places and talking to people.
Dude, that takes guts, and that's badass that you did it, because they're old enough to know what this is, and now you're going to watch them do it. So it's just coming up with that thing that no matter what, I will do this. That's what I need you to start thinking about. So what is it you're going to have for yourself that is like, no matter what, I can't let this person down. So it doesn't have to be you. It can be because, like I said, I get motivated by the stick. Like, I'm not going to let that check get cashed. But it doesn't have to be something like that. So it can be anything that you guys choose. But I need you to start thinking about it now, because that's what we're going to have for 2024 for business planning. We're going to crush it in 2024, guys, because when this market turns, it will be a barn burner. But we have to take it. You want to take advantage of it at the highest possible level, because these next 2 or 3 years could be the years that you completely set yourself up financially. It can be that kind of income earning opportunity where you can completely change everything about your family's financial future by having a solid, this isn't go out and buy new car money. This is, I'm going to set myself up to be financially independent for the rest of my life money, and create that kind of financial abundance for yourself and your family. And that's what you need to be able to take advantage of. But you're not going to do it if you don't say, okay, prospecting has to come first. That's always our biggest miss, is that prospecting becomes something of an afterthought when we get too busy and we leave far too much money on the table. So that's it. That's what I want everybody to think about. Anybody have anything that they want to share or any questions that they have?
Chris had sent, he forwards that newsletter every day. The one from, I think, Thursday or Wednesday that he said was a must read. That one had a good point in there about, as soon as the recession is classified as a recession, the Fed cuts like an average of 500 basis points off the Fed funds rate, and it happens quickly. So, 3%, 4% lower on mortgage rates, maybe from that 8% peak we saw. So just keep getting the word out right now. Like, I think people are like thrilled this week that I'm like, rates are down almost 1% in like 4 days. Like, that will get all the people that are like, starting to have the conversation of like, oh, okay, well, forget it. We'll just try again next year. Where it's like, no. I had a Zoom set yesterday. I'm like, you got to buy now, because as soon as the word gets out that rates start moving lower, like the buyers will come back in, seller credits go away, price negotiations go away, and you're gonna need $20,000-$30,000 more to buy the same house. Like, do not wait until January or February or March. So people are thrilled now. A lot of people don't know that rates are as low as they are, as they've gotten. I just locked in a jumbo VA loan this morning, like a $2 million loan that the guy was shopping with like 3 other banks. And I locked him in at 6.6 with like a $10,000 lender credit. And a week ago, it was 7.25 with no points. So there's been a big move. It's like
With a lender
250
credit.
basis points, which should be, over 1%. And banks won't give us all that money yet, right? Because they're cautious. They're like, well, what if this snaps back next week? So they're not going to reduce rates that quickly, but
They won't. They never
it's
do.
noticeable. It's a noticeable amount for sure for a week. So do a slide broadcast call, or call your pre-approved people, or do something, right? Just to get that word out, because realtors are like, the ones I've told already just in the last couple of days are just like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm like, yeah, that listing's going to sell this weekend. You need some open house flyers. What do you need?
The historically, the Fed is going to overreact to this too, right? Because they typically overreact to they overreact to everything. So we're always on this whipsaw, and where they corrected far too. First, they didn't correct at all when they should have started correcting, and they kept saying inflation was transitory. It was like, what are you talking about? It's been over a year now. This isn't transitory. And I remember saying that, and then they started the hikes, and now the hikes have gone far too far. Then they didn't have to go this high. And so now this reaction is why whenever I have talked to Chris about the stuff that he's sending out, I was like, I just do not see how this can't be a hard landing. I just don't. And it's gonna be officially, okay, we're in a recession. Well, we kind of have been in that recession. It's never today we're in a recession. It's been like we've been in a recession for a while, and they just didn't know it. And so it's just the way they look at the data. But there is definitely there's definitely going to be a long-term opportunity here, and your energy is going to translate into your paycheck. So do be excited. Do exactly what Giuseppe said. Get on the phone. Start having those conversations. Show up with the most energy. Be the most excited person that they talk to today. Okay, whenever you're talking to a client, whenever you're talking to a real estate agent, it will be super infectious, and you will have an impact. You'll be very memorable because of the way you showed up. Okay, but if you show up like everybody else, like going, hey, what's going on? You got any plans this weekend? Like, dude, are you excited about the next 6 months? I couldn't be more excited. Think about the change that you telegraph to those real estate agents. Think about the people will be like, well, wait a minute, am I missing out on something? Yeah, you are. This is going to be great. More and more people are going to get out of the business. So it's going to be a phenomenal opportunity to take advantage of. Dean, you mentioned something about you just sent me a chat. He sent me a chat message about the open house deal. You wanted to share something about the video I sent out?
Well, I thought some of this, if people haven't watched that, there's some great, I took like 2 pages of notes from that video. And I started doing some of those things related to open houses and saying, here's some things I can do for you on the open house. I think I piggybacked a little bit off what Jessica was doing with the flyer she sent out. But I'm having some pretty good reaction with people going, well, tell me more about that. So
Yeah, right on.
So I haven't got any results out of it yet, but
I just sent
that seems to be a real, the whole open house thing seems to be, because I've had a lot of realtors that have done open houses, and I've sat in open houses, and they totally took it on as, I'm just doing to sell a house, this is kind of what I'm doing. And I love the 2 ideas they had about the neighborhood brunch or the sunset thing, get all the neighborhood to come in and you know, socialize stuff. I'm like, God, that's cool. I love that idea. So, so I think
That's why-
great. I'm glad you shared that.
That's why the prospecting activity for the goal setting for 2024 is going to be focused on prospecting, guys. It's got to be, if you're not doing enough business, you're not talking to enough people. It is just that simple. It's always been just that simple. How many people are you talking to? Because look at all the transactions that are getting done, and the market's been terrible, but there's still 4,000 to 5,000 transactions closing every day. And that's a lot. 1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1% is 5 deals. 1/10 of 1%. That's like nothing. That's why it's such a cool business, is because those deals are going to happen whether you do them or not. That's the kind of business you want to be in. It'd be different if, like, going, one person buys a house every, you know, one person a month buys a house. Like, oh God, I got to get into that deal, right? Like that would be like nearly impossible. It's hard to envision how many people there are doing that are getting a house and getting a mortgage. When you think about 5,000 people a month, that's 60,000 people a year. It's like the entire Bronco Stadium. That's how many people. You can't possibly get all the market share, right? Like, it's just like there's so much opportunity, and it's just talk to more people, right? At the end of the day, whenever I drive by a car lot, I used to think, like, who's going to buy all those cars? And then that's just one car lot, one brand, like a Ford dealer with all those. I go, who's going to buy all those trucks? And then, like, a few miles down the road, there's another car dealer with a bunch of more cars. I'm like, there's so many people in the world. That's the cool thing about this business, and that's the cool thing about the opportunity. So there you go. Be excited. Show up with the most energy. Start thinking about what your big goal is going to be. What is your motivation going to be? What is it you're going to promise? And who are you going to make that promise to, that you absolutely are going to be? It's going to be impossible for you to go back on your promise. That's the kind of motivation I'm talking about, because when you have that, you can do anything in the world. All right. Let's get excited, guys. Have an awesome day. See you later.